The cold wind pushed against the old charity center, making the windows rattle as if the building itself shivered from the harsh winter night. Inside, the atmosphere felt warm but quiet, filled with soft voices, gentle footsteps, and the occasional clatter of cups. Volunteers moved around offering blankets, food, and companionship to veterans who had come seeking help, hope, or just a place to stay warm. Among the small crowd sat a man no one had noticed at first, a thin, tired-looking figure in an oversized, faded jacket. His shoulders were hunched, his boots worn down to almost nothing, and his hands trembled slightly as he held a cup of cold tea he had forgotten to drink. His face carried the kind of silence that came from years of carrying burdens alone. His name was Ethan Ward **, though hardly anyone in the room knew it. He rarely spoke, and when he did, his voice was soft, almost apologetic, as if he feared disturbing the world around him. Despite the noise and movement in the room, Ethan seemed distant, watching everything without really looking. His eyes flicked to every exit, every shadow, every movement, a habit formed long ago but never unlearned. The volunteers saw a quiet man, but Ethan had once been more than that. Much more. That same evening, another man entered the charity center, someone who carried authority even in retirement. General Marcus Hale **, known for his calm presence, had come to check on the veterans program. People greeted him warmly. He had a reassuring manner and a smile that made even the roughest soldiers straighten up with respect. As the general walked through the hall shaking hands and exchanging short conversations, he happened to glance toward the corner where Ethan sat alone. There was nothing immediately remarkable about him, just another veteran trying to survive the weight of life, and yet something pulled Marcus's attention toward him. It wasn't the man's clothes or his silence, but the stillness in the way he sat, the alertness hidden in his seemingly tired eyes. It was a posture Marcus had seen before, and soldiers who had survived things most people could never imagine. Soldiers who carried stories they never told. Marcus felt a strange tug in his memory, a sense that he should recognize this man, but he couldn't place him. His instincts told him there was more to the story than what he saw. He approached the table with gentle steps, not wanting to startle the man. "You all right there, son?" Marcus asked in a soft, respectful tone. Ethan looked up slowly. His eyes were calm, deep, quietly haunting. Eyes of someone who had seen both kindness and cruelty at their deepest extremes. For a moment, neither man spoke. Ethan seemed to study Marcus, as though recognizing the authority in his posture even without the uniform. "I'm fine, sir," Ethan finally said, though the tremor in his voice said otherwise. "What unit were you with?" Marcus asked casually, as if making friendly conversation, but he was paying close attention. Ethan's lips parted, but no words came. He looked down at his hands, tightening his grip around the cup. The silence stretched. Marcus softened his approach. "I've been around long enough to know when someone's been through more than they want to talk about, but sometimes talking helps." Ethan took a long breath, then let it out slowly. It was, many years ago, a different life. Marcus nodded. "Fair enough, but just curious. What was your call sign?" Ethan hesitated. His jaw tightened slightly. His eyes flickered, revealing a moment of conflict inside him, as if he was torn between staying hidden and acknowledging something he had buried long ago. Then he spoke a single word, a word that landed between them like a thunderbolt. Ironveil. Marcus froze mid-breath. For the first time in many years, the general's expression cracked. His eyes widened. His face went pale. His hand tightened on the back of a nearby chair to steady himself. That call sign wasn't just unusual. It was impossible **. No one used it. No one even mentioned **. It belonged to a file so classified that even saying the word could bring a room to silence. It belonged to a soldier who had vanished long ago, a soldier whose missions were wiped from records, and whose existence was whispered only in the darkest corners of military memory. The volunteers nearby paused, sensing the sudden tension. They exchanged confused glances, wondering why the general, a man known for always staying composed, looked as though he had just seen a ghost, and in a way he had. Ironveil, Marcus repeated, barely able to speak. That call sign was retired, buried. No one was supposed to. He stopped himself. He couldn't finish the sentence. The name carried too much weight, too many secrets, too many ghosts. Ethan's eyes softened, but there was no pride in them, only a tired acceptance. I know. I never expected anyone to ask. Marcus sat down across from him, still stunned. Son, the last time that name was spoken was in a mission that was erased from the world. Every soldier connected to it disappeared from records. Ironveil was the one call sign no one expected to hear again. Ethan lowered his gaze again. Some things don't stay buried, even when we want them to. In that moment, Marcus knew the truth. He wasn't looking at a broke veteran. He was looking at a man who had carried out one of the most dangerous and selfless missions in history. A mission so hidden that even high-ranking generals pretended it never existed. A man who had been forgotten. Erased, left to struggle alone, and somehow, someway, Ironveil had returned. General Marcus could still feel the shock running through him as he led Ethan outside the charity center. The cold air hit them like a wall, but neither man seemed bothered by it. Snowflakes drifted down slowly, gathering on the bench beneath the old, flickering streetlight. For a long moment, they sat in silence. Marcus was trying to gather his thoughts. Ethan looked as if silence was something he had grown comfortable with over the years. Finally, Marcus spoke, his voice low and steady, though it trembled with something he wasn't used to feeling. Fear mixed with respect. Ironveil, he repeated, do you understand what that name means? Ethan's breath formed a thin cloud in the icy air. I understand enough, he said quietly. Marcus turned to face him fully. That wasn't a regular call sign. It wasn't even a Black Ops designation. It was something else. He paused, searching for the right words. It was a ghost call sign, a label used only once. A name attached to an operation that still gives people nightmares. Ethan didn't react. He simply looked ahead, watching snow gather on the empty road. Marcus continued, that mission was sealed before it even ended. I wasn't even allowed to read the full report, and I was a field commander at the time. Ethan finally spoke. We were told not to talk about it, not to mention it, not even to think about it too loudly. Marcus felt a chill, not from the cold, but from the weight of Ethan's tone. This was not a man being dramatic. This was someone who had lived the kind of truth no one could invent. Son. Marcus whispered, the people who survived that mission were marked as missing. No one from the outside ever learned what happened, and those on the inside, we were ordered to forget, completely. Ethan nodded slowly. For good reason. The general studied Ethan's face, the quiet sorrow, the exhaustion that clung to him like a shadow. You were part of a humanitarian division, weren't you? Marcus asked. The kind that slipped into hostile regions, rescued civilians, cleared safe paths, while everyone else fought battles. Ethan's lips curved slightly, not a smile, but a memory rising to the surface. It was supposed to be simple, go in, get the villagers out, get out quietly, but it wasn't. Marcus said, already knowing the answer, no. Ethan's eyes darkened. It turned into something else, something brutal. He paused, as if deciding how much of the past to allow back into the present. We were sent into a remote valley, he began. 30. 2 villagers had been taken hostage by a group that didn't care about politics or negotiations. They just wanted fear, and we were the only ones who could reach them without starting a war. What happened? Marcus asked gently. We found them, Ethan said, but the enemy found us first. He stared at the falling snow, watching each flake melt as it hit the ground. One by one, my team was injured. Some were trapped. Some never made it out. Ethan's voice dropped even lower. The villagers were terrified. They were old people, women, little children. They couldn't move fast. They couldn't hide. Marcus listened, silent but fully present. So I stayed behind, Ethan said. Someone had to hold them off long enough for the others to escape. I was the only one still able to move, still able to fight. Marcus could imagine it now, a lone soldier, half, hidden behind rocks, snow, or broken structures, facing overwhelming odds. A human shield, a final barrier, you drew their fire, Marcus murmured, alone. Ethan nodded once. It wasn't bravery, it was necessity. If I ran with everyone else, they would have caught the children. Marcus inhaled deeply. But you were presumed dead. Yes, Ethan said with a slight shrug. I nearly was. I crawled through the woods for 2 days. No food, no warmth, no backup, no radio. I was barely human by the time I reached the extraction point. Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. Why didn't you return to the service after that? Ethan took a long breath. When I came back, I was told the mission never existed. The team was disbanded. My name was removed from every roster. I was advised to live quietly. That was the official phrase. Marcus closed his eyes for a second. That phrase wasn't unfamiliar. It was used when the military wanted someone to disappear without forcing them. A polite burial, so you left. Marcus whispered, I didn't want medals or rank or recognition. Ethan said softly, I just wanted a life without weapons, without noise, without shadows following me everywhere. He forced a small smile. Turns out, that's harder to get than I thought. Marcus felt a heavy ache in his chest. You should never have been abandoned like that. Ethan blinked slowly. War does strange things. It keeps the loudest stories alive and buries the quietest heroes because they don't fit the narrative. Marcus shook his head firmly. What you did wasn't quiet. It was extraordinary. Ethan shrugged. I didn't do it for applause. I know. Marcus replied, that's what makes it extraordinary. For a while they sat in silence again, the kind that feels heavy yet cleansing. Marcus finally turned to him. Ethan, Ironveil, you saved people no one else even knew existed. Maybe the world forgot you. Maybe the system erased you. But kindness like that doesn't die. It doesn't vanish. It echoes. Ethan lowered his eyes as if humbled by the very idea of being seen. Marcus stood slowly. You didn't come back for recognition, but it's time someone recognized you anyway. Ethan looked up, confusion and caution mixing in his tired gaze. Why now? Marcus offered his hand. Because fate brought you back to the one man who still remembers the stories he wasn't allowed to read. The snowfall continued softly around them, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt the faint warmth of something he had forgotten hope. The next morning, the atmosphere felt strangely restless, as if something unseen was shifting beneath the surface of ordinary life. General Marcus had barely slept. The revelation from the night before Ethan Ward, the forgotten hero, the man codenamed Ironveil*, had weighed heavily on his mind. The world had moved on without the man who once risked everything for strangers, and Marcus couldn't leave that truth buried another day. He drove to the old records facility, a secure military compound where documents older than some soldiers were stored under strict surveillance. The lobby smelled of aging paper and cold metal, a place where time felt frozen and memories kept their distance behind steel doors. Ethan followed silently beside him, shoulders drawn inward as if afraid the building itself would reject his presence. The guards at the front desk glanced at him but said nothing when Marcus gave a simple nod. The general still commanded respect. No one questioned his decisions. As they walked deeper into the archives, the lights dimmed slightly and the air grew cooler. Long rows of cabinets and digital terminals stood like silent soldiers guarding decades of secrets. Marcus stopped at a reinforced door marked with a bold stripe, **, restricted. Level 5, clearance required, **. Ethan hesitated. You don't have to do this. Marcus looked at him seriously. I do. You've lived too long as if your past is a crime. It's time to settle the truth. He keyed in his access code, waited for the scanner to read his palm, and the heavy door finally slid open with a deep metallic groan. Inside, the archivist on duty, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a strict posture, turned toward them. She looked from Marcus to Ethan, curiosity flickering in her gaze. General Hale, she greeted, you don't usually come down here in person. This one's personal. Marcus said, I need a veteran file accessed. Ethan Ward. The archivist's fingers moved quickly across her keyboard. But as soon as she typed the name, The computer flashed access denied in bright red letters. She frowned. Strange, let me try another route. Again, the screen denied her. A third attempt produced not just a denial but a warning. Classified under ultra-restricted protocol. Clearance upgrade required. Marcus's brows knit together. Ultra-restricted. That level is for nuclear intelligence, foreign deep, cover operations, and a handful of missions I'm not allowed to mention. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. I told you, this was all supposed to be forgotten. Marcus ignored the comment. Request temporary override. He ordered the archivist, use my identity authorization. The archivist hesitated. Are you sure, sir? It will trigger a review. Let it. She entered a long series of codes, reading them off from a locked reference case. Then she pressed confirm ***. The screen went black for a moment before a new message appeared. ***, override approved. Opening file. ***, a holographic window expanded across the terminal screen. The first page alone made both men go still. At the top was Ethan's full name, age, service number. And below that, something neither expected. 2 separate assignments, 2 divisions, 2 identities. ***, Special Operations, Humanitarian Division, status. Cleared, ***, Civilian Protection Ghost Unit, status. Disbanded under secrecy. 0, Public Record. Marcus leaned closer. Ghost Unit. I remember whispers, a team assigned to protect civilians in hostile zones without ever revealing their presence. They operated in shadows even deeper than Black Ops. Ethan didn't speak. He kept his eyes fixed on the screen, as if seeing his life printed their reopened wounds he had learned to ignore. The archivist scrolled down further. There were mission entries, heavily redacted ones. Lines of text blacked out, locations blurred, dates erased. Even the small fragments that remained told a chilling story. Unit deployed to secure extraction. Enemy forces intercepted, losses sustained. Operative designated Ironveil volunteered for diversion maneuver. Civilian extraction successful. Ghost unit casualties extensive. Marcus exhaled slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. The world owes you more than it can ever repay. But Ethan seemed distant, shaken. It was never about repayment. Then the archivist reached the final section. A sealed envelope icon flashed with a handwritten note scanned into the system. When Marcus clicked it open, both he and Ethan froze. It was dated years ago, written in old ink, the signature still bold. General Ridgway. Marcus swallowed hard. Ridgway had been his mentor, a man of immense honor who always believed in protecting the innocent above all else. He had passed away more than a decade earlier. The message, seemingly addressed to whoever found it, read, ***, if the operative known as Ironveil ever resurfaces, ensure he is cared for. He bore a weight that was never his alone. He acted with courage and compassion beyond expectation. He should never be forgotten. ***, Ethan's eyes glistened, not with pride but disbelief. He had lived so long thinking he had been erased, abandoned, left to disappear quietly. To see a message like this, from a respected general, shook him deeply. Marcus turned to him. He knew, even then, he knew your sacrifice shouldn't vanish. Ethan looked away, blinking hard. They told me we were ghosts because the world couldn't accept what we did. Marcus shook his head firmly. You weren't a ghost, you were a shield, a protector. The archivist broke the silence softly. Mr. Ward, you are listed here as missing in action, but never declared dead. Ethan gave a faint, breathless laugh. That fits. Half my life I've felt like I was somewhere in between. Marcus put a hand on his shoulder. Not anymore, this file. It's proof, and now that we've opened it, there are things I can finally do for you. Ethan met his gaze, uncertainty and hope battling within him. You don't have to, I want to. Marcus interrupted. Because you did the right thing when no one was watching. Now it's time someone watched out for you. The snow began falling again outside, seen faintly through the narrow window. A forgotten soldier had been found, a buried truth had surfaced, and for the first time in decades, Ethan Ward's story was no longer locked in a classified file. The change in Ethan's life began quietly, so quietly that he almost didn't believe it at first. After leaving the archives, he spent the rest of the day in silence, trying to understand what it meant to be seen after so many years of being invisible. For Marcus, however, there was no time for hesitation. He immediately began making calls, sending messages, and knocking on doors of people in positions of power. People who needed to know the truth about the man who had selflessly carried a burden they had all forgotten. Within 48 hours, an emergency meeting was held with veterans authorities. The officials in the room were a mix of skeptical faces and individuals who had been in service long enough to know that some secrets were buried not to hide wrongdoing, but to protect those who protected others. When Marcus presented Ethan's file, the one sealed under the highest level of secrecy, the room fell into stunned silence. "He's been living without benefits," one official asked in disbelief, "for years." Another murmured, shaking his head. Marcus's voice held no anger, but it carried a deep disappointment. He served in missions none of us were strong enough to even read about. He protected civilians when the rest of the world turned away, and he suffered alone because the system erased him to protect itself. That ends today. No one argued with him, no one dared. By the end of the meeting, decisions were made, documents were signed, orders were passed down, and for the first time in decades, Ethan Ward's name was restored, not as a ghost, but as a living veteran who deserved more than the quiet life of a forgotten soldier. 2 days later, Marcus picked Ethan up from a modest motel room where he had been staying. When he walked into the room, Ethan was sitting on the bed, staring at the wall as if afraid to hope for anything. "Ethan," Marcus said gently, "come with me." Ethan stood slowly, still unsure where this new path was taking him. He followed Marcus outside and into the waiting car. Neither man spoke for most of the drive. Ethan watched the scenery blur past the window, wondering if this was really happening or if he would wake up any moment back in the charity center, holding a cold cup of tea. Finally, the car turned down a quiet residential street. The houses were neat, with trimmed lawns and warm porch lights. Marcus parked in front of a single-story brick home with a small garden in front. It looked peaceful, too peaceful for someone like Ethan. "We're here," Marcus said. Ethan stepped out slowly. "What is this place?" Marcus walked beside him up the small path. "Your home." Ethan stopped. "My what?" "It's part of the Veterans Housing Program," Marcus explained. "You qualify for full support, and more importantly, you deserve it." Ethan stared at the house as if it might vanish. "I've never owned a home." Marcus smiled softly. "Then it's about time you did." Inside, the house was simple but warm. A clean living room, a bed with fresh blankets, a kitchen stocked with groceries. Nothing extravagant, but everything necessary for someone who had spent years with almost nothing. Ethan walked room to room slowly, touching the walls, the counter, the door frames, as if trying to convince himself it was real. His throat tightened. "I don't know what to say," he murmured. "You don't need to say anything," Marcus replied. "Just let yourself breathe." But that wasn't the end of what Marcus had arranged. A week later, he called Ethan again. "I need you to come with me. There's something important you need to see." Ethan, still adjusting to the new stability in his life, nodded and followed without hesitation. Marcus drove him not to an office or a ceremony hall, but to a large community center. The parking lot was packed. Ethan frowned. "What's happening here? You'll see," Marcus said. Inside, the center buzzed with quiet excitement. People stood in small groups, whispering. Some held flowers, others clutched small handmade signs. Ethan felt a strange flutter in his chest. Marcus guided him toward a small stage at the front of the hall. Ethan's steps slowed. "Marcus, what is this?" Before Marcus could answer, a door on the side of the room opened, and a group of people entered. Families, older adults, and young adults. They looked nervous. Emotional, their eyes searched the crowd until they landed on Ethan. One woman in her late 20s stepped forward. She held a photograph in her hand. a faded picture of a child being carried through snow by a soldier. "Ethan Ward?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ethan froze. "Yes." The woman took another step closer, tears gathering in her eyes. "You carried me. I was 7. You held my hand when I couldn't walk anymore. You stayed behind so we could run." Ethan's breath caught. His knees weakened. He remembered her, small, cold, terrified. He had wrapped her in his own jacket, promising she would survive. Behind her, the other former villagers gathered, all of them adults now, and all looking at him with gratitude so deep it felt overwhelming. "You saved us." Another man said, "All of us, we've been searching for you for years." Ethan's vision blurred. He shook his head slowly. I never wanted recognition. I only wanted you to be safe. And we are," the woman whispered, "because of you." The hall erupted in gentle applause, not loud, not dramatic, but pure and heartfelt, exactly the kind of appreciation Ethan had never expected to receive. Marcus stepped beside him, placing a steady hand on his back. "Kindness," he said softly, "always finds its way home." Ethan lowered his head, tears finally falling. For the first time in decades, he wasn't a forgotten soldier, a classified ghost, or a silent survivor. He was seen, he was valued, he was remembered, and in that moment, surrounded by the people he once risked everything to save, Ethan Ward Ironveil felt something he had long believed impossible. He felt whole again.